It's baseball, and some of you will see the defending world champion Detroit Tigers against the Kansas City Royals, or the defending National League champion San Diego Padres against a team expected to give the Padres a run in the West, the Atlanta Braves. Then we go to beautiful Hilton Head, South Carolina for today's scheduled live semifinals of the Family Circle Tennis Classic. But up first, NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball, an inside look at baseball and a preview of today's game of the week, brought to you by Lowenbrow. When you want the taste of a truly great beer, there's really only one. Tonight, let it be Lowenbrow. And by Armor All. It's science, but it works like magic. Hello, everyone. I'm Bill McAtee here in our NBC Sports studios in New York. And if it is cold where you are, don't let that belie the fact that baseball season is here. It is the 110th year of play in the National League, 85th year for the American League, and for the start of our 20th season of the Game of the Week telecast here on NBC. We've got two good matchups for you. Some of you will see the Tigers and Kansas City Royals. Bud Black starts against Jack Morris, who, remember, last year on our first telecast of the season threw a no-hitter against the White Sox. The rest of you will be going down to Atlanta, where Steve Garvey hit a couple of home runs last night as the Padres beat the Braves to spoil Atlanta's home opener. Also, in the next 15 minutes, we'll get you caught up on what else has transpired this opening week. Now, for a look at today's matchups, let's send you out the ballpark.
Thank you, Bill. Joe, the American League is not only the home of the world champion Detroit Tigers, but a couple of great individual stories will unfold. Tom Seaver in pursuit of 300 wins, having already set a record of 15 opening day assignments.
And Rod Carew with 3,000 hits. It's a cinch he'll get them, but to me, 3,000 hits, that's a lot of hits.
A lot of hits, which immediately makes you think, well, the Detroit Tigers going 35-5 last year, can they possibly repeat?
Well, Toronto is going to be the big club. They played well last year, but Detroit was so outstanding, and now they've got Caudle, and Cox can make a lot of moves, so it's going to be tough for them to repeat.
And the Boston Red Sox, the now murderous row in the East. The American League East has to be the toughest division in baseball.
No question about it. If McNamara gets any kind of hitting over there, and then who knows when Henderson gets in the Yankee lineup, I guess what we're trying to say, Vin, it's going to be a good year.
Outstanding. And, of course, the American League West, it figures to be Kansas City. What about the National League? Let's check in and go to Bob and Tony.
All right, thanks, Vin. Here in Atlanta, the Braves and the Padres. Steve Bedrosian for Atlanta, left-hander Mark Thurman for San Diego. Let's look at the National League, starting with that Western Division, Tony.
Well, really, the Western Division, you've got to say the only team that has almost all the pieces of the puzzle together, the San Diego Padres. But remember, Jack McKeon, the big trader, and Dallas Green of the Cubs last year, they really didn't fill their rosters out till the season got going. So if you're going to try and predict, don't even try. It's almost silly because there just aren't any great teams around anymore, but that might be good in this regard. You get more pennant races.
Atlanta, though, has Horner back healthy and Suter in the bullpen.
Well, the run production went down so severely last year. He's got to come through. Who's going to set up for Suter? And will the bats and the defense of Atlanta get to Suter in the 7th, 8th, and 9th with a lead?
Will the addition of Gary Carter put the Mets over the hump, or are the Cubs still the team?
I think the Cubs are the team, although you could look for a dark horse in Pittsburgh if their hitting comes around. But again, how deep is the Mets pitching staff after Gooden? Bereni was outstanding yesterday, but will his shoulder hold up?
More questions to be answered as the year goes along. Let's go back to Bill McAtee in New York.
All right, Bob, and a quick note for those of you watching the Tigers and Royals today. Much has been made of George Brett's weight loss in the offseason. But the moment George Brett told me last week that he'll remember most about the offseason was a racquetball game in Palm Springs, California, against his friend and trainer Bobby Lowe. George was hit in the eye with a racquetball during the game and was blinded for a time. There was hemorrhaging behind the eye. You can imagine the thoughts. The eye was covered. He spent the night in a hospital. Fortunately, when they removed the patch the next day, George's vision was back. And we'll be back with more in a moment. Back now in New York, you know, Pete Rose is going to be 44 tomorrow, and so far, after a great spring, Rose is hitting .454. Pete Rose's pursuit of Ty Cobb's record, just one of the many topics of conversation around baseball this opening week. Here's Lynn Berman.
Everyone threw out the first ball. Vice President Bush, former pitchers Jim Palmer and Tug McGraw, the Yankee Clipper, the Reds owner, the Cubs clubhouse man, and Carl Lewis, even Rodney Dangerfield. But he threw it for the second game because he gets no respect.
I got no respect here either today with the New York Mets. I'll tell you that. I was in the locker room. They told me to root for the other team.
And the Tiger Stadium opening day sold out solid for months. The fans wanted to see their heroes receive their championship rings. But the Cleveland Indians are also here today. The Tigers and Indians represent a couple of interesting streaks as we start 1985.
The Tigers will try to end the streak of no team repeating since '78.
It's proven fact that people move towards what they feel, what they talk about, what they believe. I'm going to talk about winning the second World Championship. That's what I believe. There's a lot of people around that can try and tell me differently, but it's right here, as far as I'm concerned, we're there.
But where are the Indians? 30 years of frustration. It's the longest non-title team anywhere in baseball.
It's a long time.
Is this the year?
I can't say is this the year or not, but I'll tell you, we can make it interesting. I'll put it that way. We'll make it interesting.
And they did make it interesting. But the Tigers still swept them 3 straight. But the biggest explosion of the week, Gorman Thomas of Seattle. 3 home runs in 1 game, including this grand slam. Seattle hit 7 in the game. That's a new American League nighttime indoor record. Take that one. Best comeback, Dickie Thon, the Houston shortstop. Or was it by Morgana? One of them. Best opening day heroics, Gary Carter. His Mets debut, a 10th inning home run that beat the Cardinals. Most charged up opener, Bob Stanley and the Red Sox as they swept the Yankees. Best opening week catch, Tony Pini, the Pirates goes flying, but the Cubs still swept 2 from them. Best was it a catch, Herm Winningham of Montreal. That's called a catch. That's an out. Best high wire act, Dave Kingman's shot in the Kingdome. It apparently hits a wire in the roof. And Phil Bradley makes the play anyway. And that's an out. But Willie Wilson of the Royals could not catch up with it. That's a grabber. And so another year of baseball is here. That's something to sing about. NBC Sports.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. It was 4 years ago that the infamous players' strike interrupted Major League Baseball for 50 days. A new players' contract, just one of the many challenges about to face our next guest, Peter Ueberroth. We'll be back. Bill McAtee back now in New York. You know, the economic realities of sport, and in particular baseball, is more in evidence every year. And it is baseball's financial situation that is one of the concerns of the man you'll hear from in a moment. As if to reinforce that thought, take a look at the cover of the Business Bible, Fortune magazine. Peter Ueberroth. He is now down in Kansas City with Vin and Joe.
Thank you, Bill. A 3-minute capsule conversation with the commissioner. Joe, why don't you lead off?
Commissioner, you're quoted in the paper, no U.S. city meets 3 criteria for expansion. Ueberroth says. I live in Phoenix. They say you're wrong. Denver says you're wrong. Tampa, St. Petersburg. Were you quoted accurately?
Yes, very accurately. It's a correct quote. You know, for 9 years, baseball's been telling these expansion cities, just keep having your cocktail parties and we'll call on you one day. We thought it'd be fairer to set out some criteria. Fan support. Most all the cities have that. Political support, and I mean long-term political support, not just people spouting off. I mean county, city, state, and federal. And then the last thing we need is ownership with roots in the community, believes in the community. And so we said, let's work on those 3, and if a city gets ready, but we don't see any yet that totally qualify. So a lot of our cities don't already, that we're already in the major leagues. So we've given some fair criteria. Most of the cities are reacting well to it. We started this about 6 months ago. We told them the criteria.
Okay.
Commissioner, where are you as far as the fear of a strike?
Well, I think the players are so well represented. They've got the best labor people that there is in the country. So they're doing their job. The owner's side is doing a good job. I don't think there'll be one.
The drug situation, what is the Commissioner's State of the Union address on that?
You know, all of society has problems with drugs. Baseball may be less than some other parts, but we're very visible. And the players on the field, along with everyone else, is working to rid baseball of drugs. And we're going to make some real headway this year. Every single team has put people forth on commercials telling kids to stay off drugs. The goal is get baseball totally off drugs so we can stand up and be an example to society, then be an example for all the kids in this country.
Joe asked you a few minutes ago if you were quoted correctly on expansion. Another question about a direct quote, where you said in the future you felt that the players should have a say in electing the commissioner. Critics immediately said it's a case of the inmates running the asylum. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that's true. I think that the players, it's not the inmates. The players should have the rights to help select the commissioner. So should the umpires. You know, the fans pay for baseball. They pay the salary of the commissioner, of the ball players, of the owners, of the umpires. Fans control this game. I think I'm the commissioner for the baseball as an organization, not just the players, not just the owners. I'm going to try and be commissioner for overall baseball. And if that's true, if I'm ever reelected, which is always going to be in great doubt, and or the next commissioner, the players should have the equal vote. They have equal vote in almost everything else, in expansion and designated hitter and everything else. Why not in the selection of the commissioner?
Commissioner, you're almost synonymous with the financial situation of baseball. It's such bad shape, yet you see lifetime contracts, you see big money. It's kind of hard to believe that baseball owners are in deep trouble.
Well, if anyone needs to know, the baseball owners will open their books. I've ordered that if that's necessary. So the baseball does have financial troubles. Much of sport has financial troubles. At the same time, no one's putting a gun to any owner's head on a player's contract. So we've got to work that out so that there's stability in baseball, so that teams, cities, so we can expand, so that cities that are smaller communities can maintain the baseball teams they have. We don't want to have, and we won't have, moving vans moving up to cities where there's a baseball team and moving them out.
Great.
Commissioner, thank you. We have used up our allotted time. A pleasure.
My pleasure. My pleasure indeed.
Commissioner Peter Uberoth, now back to Bill in New York.
All right, Vinny, and it'll be interesting to see if the commissioner asks the owners to open up their books if a strike becomes imminent. The commissioner also plans to poll the fans about the designated hitter, and next week we will also seek your opinion in an NBC Sports telephone poll about the DH. We will ask you to vote and then announce the results throughout the day, and then a final tally before we leave the air at the end of the day. All right, what this has all been about. Baseball is next here on NBC. You will see either the Detroit Tigers against the Kansas City Royals or the Atlanta Braves against the San Diego Padres. Settle in.
The name Willie Hernandez has always meant relief, but in 1984, it meant bubbles and excitement and the highest awards in baseball. He was the most valuable player, and he went on to become the Cy Young Award winner as the Detroit Tigers became the champions of the world in '84. Hernandez is here. The Tigers are here against the Kansas City Royals, and Sparky Anderson, still thinking about the hugs from Jim Campbell, set sail in '85.
NBC Sports presents Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Royal Stadium, it's the Detroit Tigers versus the Kansas City Royals. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Lowenbrau. When you want the taste of a truly great beer, there's really only one. Tonight, let it be Lowenbrau. By Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By the Big Shaver for normal skin and the Big Shaver for sensitive skin. Now there's double trouble for stubble. And by Honda Motorcycles, inventors of the ATC three-wheeler. Honda, follow the leader.
From Royal Stadium in Kansas City, the Major League Baseball Game of the Week featuring the world champion Detroit Tigers and the American League Western champion Kansas City Royals. Rainy day, rain this morning, overcast skies, but the prospects of a dandy coming up. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola, and it's almost as if we've turned back the clock, and it's time for the League Championship Series.
It's a replay, that's for sure. And Vin, before we go any farther, it's almost a cinch we're going to play with this new carpeting we have here. It's so plush.
It's incredible. Even though it had rained, the water drains right through the rug, and although the rug is a little damp, why, there are no visible puddles, and the game will go on without a beat.
And two pretty good pitchers going. Morris, who pitched a no-hitter for us in our opener last year, and Black. And this Kansas City ball club, I think, have really helped themselves in many areas, but especially catching, because Sundberg can throw runners out, which the Kansas City catchers didn't do.
And, of course, for Detroit, they've won 9 straight here, one last the year before last, all 6 last year, and 2 of the 3 League Championship Series. So if Detroit is at home on the road, this is the place.
Right.
Well, we'll get to the starting lineups, all the pregame stats, and have more, all coming up right after this.
The following message is furnished by Major League Baseball.
Baseball. The name conjures up so many memories. Memories shared by families and even an entire nation. From father to son and generation to generation, tradition is passed on. The legends of baseball belong to every family. Major League Baseball, a family tradition.
Hi, this is Sparky Anderson, manager of the Detroit Tigers, and I'm going to give you our lineup today against a real tough Kansas City ball club that we don't look forward to playing. Leading off for us is going to be Tommy Brookins at third base, just outstanding defensive player. And Alan Trammell at shortstop, one of the great players in our game today. And in right field, a guy that's just coming on to be a great star, Kurt Gibson. Batting fourth for us is going to be our designated hitter today, Lance Parrish, who normally is catching for us. And number 5 is going to be Larry Herndon. He's swinging the bat extremely well this spring. And in center field, we feel the best center fielder in all of baseball, and Chet Lemon. The last 3 I can't name. I'm going to bring on a guy that does all our stopping for us. When we get to this point, we call him the King, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Sparky. It's a pleasure for me to mention it. Batting 7, Barbaro Gabe playing first base. Batting 8, doing the catching, Manny Castillo. Castillo doing the catching. And batting 9, Pitero, second base. And I hope I have a day off today. But with crazy guy like him, I don't think I'm going to get a chance.
Well, there's no day off at all for anybody involved. Here's the way they stack up defensively.
Motley will be in left field, Willie Wilson in center field, and baseball fans know how much ground he can cover. Sheridan in right field, Brett, Concepcion, White, Balboni in the infield, Sundberg behind the plate, and they won't be doing much running on him. Black has a pretty good move as a pitcher, and he'll be holding the runners close, and if you do that, Sundberg will be able to throw them out.
As you look at Bud Black, a 17-game winner last year, 0-1 against Detroit, 0-2 lifetime, plus a defeat in the League Championship Series. The Tigers are the only American League team that he has not beaten in his Royals career. When you think back in the early 80s, he was one of the many young lefties in the Seattle organization. They had Matt Young, Floyd Bannister, Shane Rawley, Carlos Diaz, Brian Clark, and Rick Honeycutt. He may very well have been the least thought of member of that group. Now he's probably the best of the group.
There was some trade that John Sherholtz, the general manager, made, and the one thing about Black, you have to go out and beat him. He doesn't walk people. He feels his position well. He holds runners on. He's just a good all-around athlete.
Tom Brookins is playing third base today. Lou Whitaker is out. Chris Pitero takes over at second base. So Tommy Brookins is the third baseman to start off against Bud Black. Big, slow jug in there for a strike. Nice way to start.
That immediately sends a message to the other bench saying, hey, you just can't sit on my fastball. I got control of all my pitches.
No balls and 1 strike. Then he comes in with a fastball, and he was a little late in getting around on it, and a fly ball to Willie Wilson. 1 away. You talk about sending a message. I guess everybody in the ballpark expects the first pitch on a Saturday between these two rivals to have a lot of heat on it. And the very fact he changes up, if you're now any hitter in the starting lineup, what are you starting to think?
You're starting to think I can't look for anything until I find a particular situation. Right now, for example, Trammell can't go up there saying, well, he's going to throw me a fastball to get ahead of me because he saw him throw the strike with the curveball to Brookins.
Against Black in his career, Trammell has only 4 hits in 17 at-bats, but he drills this one to Willie Wilson. His 4 hits are 3 home runs and a triple. But just an out, so 2 down.
To carry on your theme of the message, now he's made 3 pitches, he has 2 outs. Will Kirk Gibson take the first pitch to make him work a little bit, or will he jump on it thinking, hey, he's going to lay a fastball in there? This is the kind of cat and mouse game that I think goes on constantly in baseball.
Well, Gibby with those big numbers, 27 home runs, 91 RBIs, and he was quoted recently as saying this is the most important year because he can go into free agent, so he wants even bigger numbers, and he takes in the dirt ball 1-0. Of course, that's all part of the game today.
It's all part of negotiating. The player's going to gamble on a big year, so the jackpot is bigger.
1 ball and no strikes to Kirk Gibson. 2 out, a half swing for a strike, says Dean Coble, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Bud Black had 7 times go 9 innings last year. Most walks in a game, a half a dozen. Ground ball to the right side in the hole. Great stop by a Gold Glove to get him, Frank White. So the Gold Glove is shining in Kansas City, and Gibby loses a hit. No score at the end of half.
Hi, I'm Dick Hauser, manager of the Kansas City Royals. Today's batting order, leading off and playing center field, Willie Wilson. Batting second and playing right field, Pat Sheridan. Our number 3 hitter today is George Brett. Batting fourth will be our DH, George Orta. Hitting fifth, our big first baseman, Steve Balboni. Our 6th place hitter will be our left fielder, Darryl Motley. Hitting 7th and playing second base, Frank White. And the guy that finishes our game for us, Dan Quisenberry.
Yeah, I'm not playing yet. I'm going to be sitting out there watching a big league ball game with you. Batting 7th is Jim. Well, actually, he's batting 8th, not 7th. Is Jim Sundberg, the nicest guy on the team so far this year, and he can throw too now. Batting 9th is Oni Concepcion. Tienes bueno brazo and es el buen hombre. Our pitcher today is Harry Bud Black, our touring golf pro. Hey, enjoy it.
Talking about enjoy, the people in Kansas City enjoying the fielding prowess of Frank White as he takes a cinch base hit away from Kirk Gibson. White has won 6 Gold Gloves, more than any second baseman in American League history. Mazeroski has 7 in the National League.
That's a new artificial surface that you're looking at. Frank White, you see right there, the 6-time American League Gold Glove winner. The players, it is spongier, very spongy, and George Brett says, and it almost sounds like a contradiction, he says, the ball doesn't get through as fast, but it's livelier. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He said, the ball will not jump as high as in some ballparks like in Minnesota, so they do like it here.
Here's the way they're going to chase the rabbit.
That's it. Herndon is in left field. Chet Lemon, well, you heard Sparky call him the best center fielder in the American League. And Gibson, much improved. Attitude just great. Brookins, Trammell, Pataro, the new second baseman replacing Winneker, who's got a little bit of a hurt. Sparky Anderson, high in praise of him, says he has the best hands he's ever seen on a young infielder. Garbez at first base, Castillo behind the plate, and Jack Morris is on the mound.
Kansas City feels as they look at Jack Morris that they are a much better team, and they will have to beat a 19-game winner who has won more games over the last 6 years than any other American League pitcher. He's won 103 games. And, of course, you remember, among other things, that Roger Craig taught him the split-fingered fastball, and a year ago on our first telecast, a no-hitter against the White Sox. And there's the strike to Willie Wilson. And, of course, the Royals feel they are much better this year because they have Wilson and Brett from the start of the season. 0-1. Line drive, and that's going to be down the line and in the corner. Over to get the ball is Gibson, and Wilson's going to go for 3. Gibson gets the ball back into Patero, and it goes over his head, backed up by Garbey, and Wilson aboard with a triple.
I have to believe, Ben, that would be a pitch that they're going to have to ask Morris about the next day, because they were shifted way over towards the left field line, and looked like Morris threw an off-speed pitch, which would be the split-fingered fastball. Let's see if it is. That's what it was, and he was able to pull the ball, and if you got your defense stacked one way, you have to pitch so they hit that way.
Well, you know, Willie Wilson rarely walks, which is a bad trait for a leadoff man. But with his speed and a 305 lifetime average, you can see how valuable he is. So Wilson at third, nobody out, and Pat Sheridan trying to pick him up and pops it up instead. It'll be Garbe and Patero, and it is Garbe making the catch for the out. So Sheridan, who hit his first home run in the big leagues. He's from Detroit. And Pat pops out.
George Brett.
Well, here's the other part of the returnees for a full season, and that would be George Brett. You know, last year the Royals had their full lineup for only 1/4 of the season. In fact, Brett and Wilson weren't playing until the middle of May. So he's back and looks great.
He's lost about 25 pounds. He did a lot of running and ate a lot of fish, but I think the running helped him more than the fish.
So Brett trying to pick up Wilson at third. One out, and he does. Hammers it to center, and it's 1-0 in favor of Kansas City. And remember, the Tigers have won 9 straight here, and the Royals have to be jacked up to try and break that. The Tigers winning all 6 last year, plus 2 in the playoffs, plus the last time they met the year before. And just like that, 1-0 Royals.
Castillo has to catalog that Sheridan with Wilson at third jumped on the first pitch. Brett jumped on the first pitch.
Well, we'll see now what George Orta does. If you look at the Kansas City lineup and you have George Brett hitting third, the one thing that Kansas City would sell a crown to get would be a legitimate number 4 hitter. The jury is still out on Steve Balboni. If they had a 4th hitter, in other words, if Ripken and Murray are in tandem and Dale Murphy and Bob Horner, you need that extra hitter. Now, Orta is a good hitter, McRae's a good hitter, but they don't have that 30 home run power.
To add to that, Orta, as you see right there, and McRae, both 4th place hitters, but they're both considered hit and run men by the manager, Dick Hauser. How many 4th place hitters do you know that are hit and run men?
The 1-0 pitch, a little breaking ball up. Interestingly enough, Orta's first home run as a Royal was a 3-run blast off Jack Morris last April, and almost an anniversary. It was April the 18th. 2-0 to George Orta. Orta's a player, as he battled Morris and Brett takes his lead at first, has really grown as a DH as opposed to a utility man. Fly ball to left field. Larry Herndon is there. Brett is halfway watching, and the out recorded in left. 2 down. Now here's big Steve Balboni. 28 home runs last year, the 2nd most in Royals history. John Mayberry hit 34 in the mid-70s, but Balboni pays a tremendous price. He set a Royals record last year, striking out 139 times.
Any scouting report on him will simply say streak hitter. When he's hitting, he can hit anything, and when he's not, he couldn't hit a tractor trailer coming across home plate.
Off speed, and it's in there for a strike. 0-1. So Balboni, as you can see, his ratio of whiffs at first is George Brett, who did not steal a base in 83 or 84, and then showed the world how much better off he is this year. He had a stolen base against Toronto in the 2nd game of the season. Fastball, he challenged.
Got it in a good spot, up and in, and he's got him set up now. He can go any way he wants. He can go get him on this pitch with another fastball there, or try to bounce a curveball because he started him off with the slow curveball. That's a catcher's delight situation.
Must be tough on Balboni to fight negative thoughts now, the fear of striking out. Foul ball. After all, you get up there and quickly it's 0-2, and you wonder, well, maybe I ought to just meet the ball.
You know what they call those guys? Hope hitters. I hope I hit the ball. I just hope I don't strike out.
I saw a bumper sticker the other day. It said, now that I've given up hope, I feel much better. 0-2 the count to Steve Balboni. Morris in strikeouts had 10 against the Angels. Strike 2 pitch is fouled away off speed. Kansas City, when it won its 1984 division title, had 5 men playing their first year as regulars. They had the oldest starting rotation in September of '83. They've really changed here. While Morris, same old right-hander, great. 0-2. 1-0 in favor of the Royals, first inning. chased the breaking ball, and down he goes. So Balboni pays the price again, but it's a run on 2 hits and a man left. The end of an inning, Royals 1, Tigers nothing.
With our super-duper camera, watch this curveball. Take a good look at the wrist motion of Morris as he comes across, as he turns it over right there. Look at that hand, and now the rotation of the ball. That's what a hitter tries to pick up, is the rotation. And if you are looking for the curveball and you see the rotation, fine. But if it's the other way around, forget it. You do what Balboni did on that pitch. You miss it and go back to the bench.
Well, we go to the second inning, 1-0 in favor of Kansas City with Lance Parrish, Larry Herndon, and Chet Lemon. Parrish, who hit 30 home runs, he got to that plateau for the second time in 3 years. He won his 4th Silver Slugger Award. He won his 2nd Gold Glove. He was just an incredible player. Fastball away, ball 1. And when you look down on the field and see Jim Sundberg wigwagging signs and Parrish at the plate, you're looking at about the 2 best catchers in the game. 1-0. That's a strike. 1-1.
Sparky is giving Parrish a little bit of rest in his first month of the season. As we look at Sundberg, pitchers will not look wild with him behind the plate.
In on the hands, missed ball 2, 2-1. When you think about it, the Tigers, not only with 35-5, as Sparky constantly keeps up a line of chatter with Barbo Garbe, they were 35-5, and they won their first 17 road games. That ball is foul. Foul ball. So Brett knocks it down, but that's all. When they won 17 straight road games, that set an American League record, and it tied the Major League record by the 1916 Giants. It's tough to win on the road, never mind in a row.
Well, Sparky was ecstatic. I heard him say at a banquet last year he had to kick himself to keep his feet on the ground.
Well, there he is, old Spark, who fortunately was not seriously ill when sent to the hospital in Detroit. They thought it was phlebitis. Turned out not to be at all, thank goodness. So he's fine and very, very chipper. The 2-2 pitch to Lance Parrish. There's a shot foul. You know, twice in that 35-5 start, twice now, the Tigers had 9-game winning streaks. No other American League team won 9 in a row all year. There are a lot of people saying, well, it's impossible for all the things to fall in place for them again. Well, we'll see about that. 2-2. Fouled off.
It's going to be a good battle. You can see already how Bobby Cox is able to make some moves with his bullpen with Bill Caudle over at Toronto and things like that.
As you can see, Dick Hauser has had a splendid career, as short as it is as a manager. 2-2. Missed inside, ball 3. What's happening is the Royals and the Tigers are trying to reestablish what is nearly an extinct concept, repeating a division title. The 3-2 pitch. There's a one-hopper off the leg and goes on out into left field, and Brett limping. That stung. Over to get the ball is Motley, and holding on with a shot literally off the third baseman is Lance Parrish, and that's a base hit. I don't care how soft the field is.
Right, I'm not so sure. Watch this ball just eat him up. I mean, whoa, he went after that.
Inside of the right knee, it got him.
That ball got out there in a hurry. Here's another look at it. George not too sure of anything except that the ball's going to rattle off his knees.
So Parrish bangs one off Brett into left field for a base hit. And the batter now is Larry Herndon. Big Parrish held on at first by even bigger Steve Balboni, so there's a natural tilt to the infield right now. Fastball outside, ball 1. I mean, they can stand wherever they want.
Where's Hulk Hogan when you need him?
That's right.
The tag team match going between those guys. Look at
that.
That's a group picture right there with 2 guys in it.
So Lance Parrish held on by Balboni. 1 ball and no strikes to Larry Herndon. Chet Lemon on deck, and timeout for the moment. Kind of an overcast day. We had some rain. As the kids would say, it's kind of yucky, but it's okay. We'll take it. And there goes Parrish. Hit and run, swung on and missed. The throw down, he got it. Frank White making the tag. Sundberg is about the best there is in accuracy as long as he gets help from the pitcher. I think all catchers in the big league certainly are as good as the pitchers move.
And I think on this one, he had a tough ball to handle. He makes a very accurate throw. All they have to do is catch the ball down there, which they do, and drop the tag. Looked like almost a delayed steal by Parrish. Look at that throw. Anytime it's right around the kneecap, boy, that's a great throw.
Last year, the Royals were really sunk by opposition runners. Herndon hits a pop fly into shallow right center. Coming up is Sheridan, losing his hat, but makes the play. 2 down. You know, better than 7 out of 10 base runners was successful last year against Kansas City. That's shocking.
It was something like, what, 29%?
Chet Lemon, center field.
And then pitchers, I'll tell you, there's nothing that'll boost a pitcher more than what just happened here, where the guy gets on and the catcher shoots him out. And Sundberg, by the way, I'm talking to Dick Hauser, he calls his own game. Dick doesn't call any pitches, and they've got a little system worked out on pitch outs.
Oh, we'll see now about Chet Lemon. And he probably goes the other way and bangs it into right field. Lemon is hitting better than 500 against Black, so it comes as no surprise. He just walks up there and drills it. And that'll bring up Barbaro Garbey.
One of the things about Garbey last year, he was a notorious first ball hitter. Just wonder if over the course of the winter and talking to him and in spring training that they worked on it, or do you let him do it because the cure may be worse than the disease?
Well, we'll see about Garbey, who was drafted as a free agent back in 1980 by Detroit. And he had a pretty good year last year. He stole home against Milwaukee. He was named the Tiger Rookie of the Year by the Sports Broadcasters of Detroit. He had a 10-game hitting streak. Wound up hitting .287 with 5 home runs. Black with a pretty good move that time.
He'll be tough, Garbey will, on this artificial surface, because he usually hits down on the ball and gets the ground ball and will shoot by.
1-0 Royals, top of the second, 2 out. Chet Lemon at first, Barbaro Garbey at the plate, and that's in there. And you wonder, as we sit here doing this ball game, what Roger Craig is doing.
That's right, old Raj. Vada Pinson is the new coach at first base, although Roger Craig was the pitching coach on the bench.
And Billy Muffet is the new pitching coach for Detroit, although he is not going to be teaching any more fork balls, I don't believe, or split-fingered fastballs. 0-1 the count to Barbaro Garbey. Sundberg going headhunter down there, but Lemon is back.
See, that's the thing that Kansas City didn't have last year. Even if you don't get the man, it picks up your ball club, and it's one of those plays. It wasn't a set play. It was an I'll be there kind of play, which the catcher starts, which simply says to the first baseman, if I get this ball, meaning if he doesn't hit it, I'm going to throw there, so be there. And now Pinson is having a meeting with Lemon over there at the first base, so it just makes your club look like they're really in the game and picks it up. Just a pick-off throw that you didn't get the man, but you got the job done.
Sent the message. By the way, Sundberg is indeed an experienced catcher. The next game he starts will be number 1500. Ground ball to third. Brett down to Frank White. So despite 2 hits, the Tigers come up empty, and at the end of an inning and a half, the Royals won, and Detroit nothing. A distinguished foursome taking in the game from left to right. Avron Fogelman, the vice chairman of the board and co-owner of the Kansas City Royals, his wife Wendy, and then seating next to Mrs. Fogelman is Ginny Uberoth, and of course the commissioner of baseball, Peter Uberoth, on the right. And Avron Fogelman really in the news lately, Joe.
He really has come up with a unique concept of lifetime contracts, and it's based on just the thought of keeping favorites in the town they played, such as Quisenberry, Brett, and he's working on Frank White this week. I think it's a great concept because at least you know the guy's going to be around.
Bottom of the second inning, the Royals leading the Tigers 1-0, and Darrell Motley will start it off. Then Frank White and Jim Sundberg, and that's in there for a strike. 0-1. Motley led the club in games played last year with 146, and he had career highs in just about every offensive category. He even had 6 RBIs in a game. 1 ball and 1 strike. Motley primarily the left fielder, but he also logged 44 games in right field. He had a 7-game hitting streak, and he had 1 stretch where he hit .425 and bangs it up the middle. Trammell can't get it. Base hit for Motley. Jack Morris was greeted by a triple by leadoff man Willie Wilson today. What a difference a year makes.
Frank White, second base.
Got him swinging, and he has his no-hitter. Well, the tumult and the shouting has died down. The princes and the captains have left, and for Morris, it's another game in another year, and he's down 1-0 in the second. Frank White chasing that 0-1 account. We mentioned earlier, Frank made a dazzling play that White had won 6 straight Gold Gloves from 77 through 82, and then Lou Whitaker had the Gold Glove in 83 and 84. In 84, when Whitaker got it, you had to wonder, because White had more chances than Whitaker and less errors, and yet Whitaker won the award. So I guess there's a lot that goes into that besides cold stats. 0-1. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Reputation. Press.
Yeah, there's a lot in it. Because otherwise it's pretty hard to explain. Yeah. Maybe, too, there was some thinking, well, White won 6 straight. Whitaker's an awfully good second baseman. Let's give it to him. That kind of thing.
Could be.
1-1 to count at Frank White. Fastball at the knuckles. You were talking about Avron Fogelman and the lifetime contracts. As we look at Jack Morris. Morris, the biggest winner. And in 6 years, 103. White so far has not signed that so-called lifetime contract, but apparently they're getting closer to it.
Talk like they might do it this week. If they're going to be running on Morris, this would be the pitch. This will send another message. You're always looking for messages.
He doesn't go, and the off-speed pitch is low. That would have been a good pitch to run on.
Perfect pitch to run, which indicates that Sparky doesn't think they're going to be running.
Another thing about Morris, it is known around the league that he does not have a good move to first base. In fact, last year, there were 12 straight successful steals against Jack Morris. So it figures that they will certainly put a run and hit play on now, meaning White doesn't have to chase ball 4. No, they don't. Boy, that's a surprise. So 2 on, nobody out. And that'll bring up Jim Sundberg. So Jack Morris, who gave up the triple to Wilson and a 1-out single to Brett for a run, now in a little trouble here in the second inning. Motley singles, White walks, and as Sundberg comes up, we'd like to remind you that once again this year we'll be presenting the NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game Award. We'll announce our selection at the end of the game. Jim Sundberg. He's 33. He'll be 34 the middle of May. Came from the Brewers for Don Slaught and Frank Wills, and they pull up the corners looking bunt. Didn't tip it off if he is. Ball 1.
Well, he's a good bunter. He's the best as far as the squeeze play is concerned, which would indicate he can bunt at any time. I wouldn't think in the second inning you'd be giving up and out because you got your 8th place hitter coming up, Concepcion.
1-0 the count. Garbey and Brookins with Garbey ready to come, and the pitch got the outside corner. 1 ball and 1 strike. One thing about Sundberg with 2 on and nobody out, maybe his best game of the year was last year. He had 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. You guessed it, against Kansas City. 1-1. That's in there. Looked like a little slider, hard
slider. That was in a good spot. That was a double play ball. If he hits that, he hits it right to Trammell and short, and they can turn that one over.
1-2 the count of Jim Sundberg. You have Motley at second, White at first. Nobody out in the second inning. Royals leading 1-0 with the lights on at Royal Stadium. And there's a one-hopper to Trammell. He feeds Patero. He goes back to Garbey, and they get the double play. So they're playing it kind of cautiously. They're not trying to put any heat on Morris. They didn't play run and hit. They decided not to bunt, and Sundberg hits into the DP.
It was a tough ball to handle. It kind of handcuffed Trammell, but a good shortstop makes the play, which he does. And you youngsters, look how he feeds that ball underhanded, a little bit high, but Patero was able to see the ball all the way, and with Sundberg's burst of speed, it was still a double play. Had to say something nice about a catcher. They always say catchers can't run. I don't like to say that.
He was motoring.
He was motoring.
Onyx Concepcion hitting in the number 9 slot with a runner at third and 2 down in the second inning. Breaking ball had missed, ball 1, 1-0. The leadoff man, Willie Wilson, on deck. Now the 1-0 pitch on the way is a high fastball, and Morris almost took a header. He almost fell down. So Jack going to take a little time before he goes back to work. 2 balls and no strikes. Here's a surprise for you. Who are the best hitters in the American League? In fact, both leagues. Since the All-Star break last year, we'll go in reverse. The number 3 hitter was Tony Gwynn, and the number 2 hitter, Don Mattingly. You figured that, didn't you? Sure. Would you believe the number 1 hitter in both leagues, as you look at Darryl Motley at third, was Onyx Concepcion? You might win yourself a cold one on that.
Case. A keg.
Fastball under the hands, ball 3. 3-1.
Let me ask you something. Does Onyx Concepcion know that?
I doubt it. I don't think he'd know that. See, look at that. 191. He certainly doesn't want to think about that. But that's one of the more remarkable things in all of baseball right now. 1-0 Royals, second inning. Motley down the line from third with 2 out. And a ground ball to the left to Trammell. Allen is up with it, and that takes care of that. So they leave Motley at third, and at the end of 2, 1-0 Royals. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Messine and the Royals leading the Tigers 1-0, trying to snap a Detroit 9-game winning streak in this ballpark. It'll be Marty Castillo, Chris Patero, and then Tommy Brookins. Castillo was a very vital part of the Detroit success story last year when you look back to it. He was busy in the championship series against Kansas City. Frank White should take care of that, and does. So Castillo is jammed, pops it up to a smiling White, and we have 1 down. The newcomer, Chris Patero. He's out of Trenton, New Jersey, went to the University of North Carolina, and he was the number 6 selection in the '82 draft. Came up where he hit .284 at Birmingham last year. Chopper foul, 0-1 the count.
I'm just going from memory, but wasn't his father a baseball coach? He grew up in that environment.
I think you're right. I shall now look through my copious notes.
Because Sparky talks about the instincts of this youngster, and he talked about a particular play when Forder was left and still was at third base to take the throw.
His dad is the baseball coach at Rider College in New Jersey. You are a veritable font of information.
Yes, sir. Me and Mr. Patero.
Awesome.
And I don't even have copious notes.
2-2 the count to Chris. The chances are he is such a good ball player. He is going to move a Gold Glove. Next year, they figure Whitaker will be the third baseman for Detroit. Chased it and paid the price. So Chris strikes out. First strikeout for Black.
The third baseman, Tom Brookins.
Get a good look at where that pitch was. It's out of the strike zone, at least it appeared. There it is, but too close to take. You just can't take that pitch. 2 strikes. He was going to go the other way. He didn't try to pull it. Just missed it.
Tommy Brookins whacks it into left center. That hits the rug and splashes and gets by Willie Wilson. And Brookins into second base with a double and is going to go for 3. Frank White lets Onyx Concepcion make the throw, and it's not in time. One thing you have to remember, even though there is turf here, the infield was covered, but the outfield is not. And boy, that ball splashed and skidded because the outfield is wet. That meant the extra base.
This is a great doubles and triples ballpark, a lot of room. Of course, with Willie Wilson, it's inside the park home run territory, and he's had a couple of them. Here's that head-first slide by Brookins.
So the tying run is 90 feet away with 2 out as Tommy Brookins triples up the alley in left center, and Alan Trammell will now try to pick him in. He has a streak here in this ballpark. Strike. Trammell has a 14-game hitting streak here at Royal Stadium, hitting over 500 along the way. He flied to center in the first inning. 1-0 Royals, top of the third. Brookins at third. In there at the knees on the corner. That's quite a pitch.
Good pitch. Sundberg just moving him in and out, and the breaking ball, you can see he just targeted that outside part of that plate, and Black was able to hit it.
The ball's 2 strikes, and Trammell hits a little fly ball to right field, and Pat Sheridan says he has it, and he's true to his word. So they waste Brookins' triple and leave the tying run. At the end of 2.5, Kansas City 1 and Detroit nothing.
Here's a classic example of a catcher telling a pitcher not using his hands what he wants done. Watch him lean to the right, saying if you miss with this pitch, miss outside. And it was just a perfect pitch.
What are the chances of Trammell peaking?
Good. That would be all right. Let him peak.
Okay, just wondering. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not mad.
Yeah. Here's Willie Wilson. Willie. Yeah, you know, just looking to see where that catcher's hanging out.
No, that's a good thought. That's a good thought. It's very good. He can certainly see him out there.
Wilson tripled and scored the run in the first inning. Brett hammered one up the middle to get him in.
Just to finish the thought, the next time I'll go out there and I'll zing him.
Yeah, then you lean out once and you come inside and he's in a lot of trouble.
Right. You say no peeking.
2 balls and no strikes. The count to Willie Wilson. And that's in there. 2-1. Willie has hit 300 or better 5 of the last 6 years and missed 32 games. He was serving a suspension by Commissioner Bowie Kuhn. In fact, because of his involvement with drugs, and now that he has signed that lucrative contract, I understand he just donated $40,000 for drug research and to understand the problem, and even more so to correct it. 3-1. So he's been burned trying to tell the kids. And it's ball 4 to Willie. So that's kind of rare. As we mentioned earlier, he doesn't walk very often. For instance, last year, he walked 39 times. The year before, 33 times. And would you believe the year before that, he walked 20 times in 585 at-bats. So you're looking at a little something that doesn't happen very often, a walk to Willie Wilson.
He runs on his own. Hauser has a don't run sign, and that's dictated by Brett using the hole.
Here's Pat Sheridan. A shot, one-handed, one hop by Garbe. The tag at second, they get the double play. Garbe makes a great play. It was hit to his gloved side, and by stepping on the bag, he removed the force.
Watch him look at his glove to see if the ball's there, right there. Oh, look, it's here. I think I'll go out and buy a lottery ticket.
So the Detroit boy, Pat Sheridan, blisters one, only to have Barbaro Garbe turn it into a double play, which is the second double play turned in. And now George Brett. How does he hit against Jack Morris, 2 of the stars in the league? Slow jug for a strike. Well, he singled sharply in the first inning to drive in a run. And look at those numbers. Brett had 6 walks in the first couple of games this year, so they're really pitching around him, which points up that point we were making earlier. How the Royals would love to have that big cleanup hitter, a power hitter, as opposed to 2 very good hitters like Orta and McRae, who are not a long ball threat. 1-1.
Tell you, George looks stronger. I know he's lost 20 pounds and all that, but that exercise and running program, and he got on the weights, he's worked on his legs. He looks stronger.
Here's the 1-1 pitch. Ball 2. He's going to face a tremendous temptation this year. His brother Ken opened up a beautiful restaurant in Southern California. When the Royals play the Angels, where's he going to eat? And how is he going to eat? Ball 3. 2 down, bottom of the 3rd inning. Good one. It figured. The Royals won, the Tigers nothing. Jack Morris and Bud Black.
Here's your battle right now, 3-1. You know Brett will be looking for a pitch, and Morris has got to make sure he throws him the pitch he's not looking for.
If I were Morris, I'd walk him. I'm messing around with him for it. That's it. I'd take the bat right out of his hands. There's no way I'm going to let Brett hit one out. So there's ball 4, and he'll try his luck with George Orta.
And that's what the good pitchers do. The good pitchers say, hey, a base on ball's not going to hurt me now. There are 2 outs. He's still got to knock him in from first base. That's a little tough to do. I'll put him on first and know where he is rather than throw a strike, and he tells me where he is.
You bet. And here's George Orta. Orta flied to left field in the first inning, 0 for 1. There's such a big difference between a utility player and a designated hitter. Boy, this is a prime example. When he was over in the National League, where he could only be a utility player, used accordingly, he just couldn't hit. But now, where he's going to be guaranteed somewhere around 300 to more at-bats a year, he can rip. A little bit out in front, and the count 0-2. The only run, if you joined us late, in the bottom of the first, Jack Morris, who gave us a no-hitter a year ago, made his first pitch, and Willie Wilson tripled. And with 1 out, Brett singled him in, and you're up to date. Tommy Brookins tripled with 2 out, but they left him in the third, so it's still 1-0 Kansas City. High chopper, and Morris has to wait, but Orta doesn't run that fast, and he gets him. George will be 35. So no runs, no hits, a man left, and at the end of 3. The Royals, we're going to the 4th inning, 1-0 in favor of the Royals.
They checked this carpet pretty good, the players did, and they noticed that right there where it joins the dirt, look at that ridge in there. And when you come off that artificial surface from infield into foul territory, it's stumbling time if you're not careful.
Yeah, because that ridge and incline is about 4 inches. It catches you right in the instep. The first pitch to Gibson is a strike, which points up why we're moving along. Bud Black has made 32 pitches and 24 strikes. Morris is not quite that sharp. 2-0, the count to Kirk Gibson. Kirk Harold Gibson by name, the first Tiger to hit at least 20 and steal 20 in the same season. Fouled away. 2-1.
Black has such good control. It's just a delight to sit here, watch Sundberg give a target and see that ball in that area. Well, it's the expression of catching in a rocking chair.
Bud's 2-1 pitch. Ground foul, 2-2. Joe mentioned before about the fact that Black came here in a terrific deal for Kansas City. They sent Manny Castillo, an infielder, to Seattle and wind up with one of the strong left-handers in baseball. But of course, when you think about it, Kansas City has made a couple of dandy trades. I mean dandies. Here's the 2-2 pitch to Gibson. Ball 3. For instance, how about Richie Scheinblum and Roger Nelson for Hal McRae? Or how about Joe Foy for Amos Otis? Or Jim York for John Mayberry? And got him looking, and he was all tied up. So Black picks up his second strikeout. He had gotten Patero in the third.
The designated hitter, Lance Parrish.
Lance Parrish coming up.
Look at Brett walking back about 20 feet, talking to the umpire at third, Mike Riley, saying, how about you putting the glove on this time?
They're both staying loose, and there's a shot into left field. So Parrish goes 2 for 2 as he bangs one into left, and with 1 out, the batter will be Larry Herndon. Hit number 4, or Bud Black. In case you wonder, Lance Parrish stole 1 base last year.
He ran on the 1-1 count last time. He's a good ball player, looking at the signs, checking around.
Larry Herndon now trying to move him along, flied to right field in the second inning. Herndon, as you can see, a much better hitter against left-handers. Maybe 75 points better. And promptly bangs it to the right side. Frank White goes to his shortstop. Concepcion drops it, and everybody's safe. So Onyx trying to get off a double play throw, and he came up empty. And he'll draw the error. So instead of finishing the inning, it's very alive.
From Little League, they say make sure the one man, and Onyx just took his eye off it and lost the play.
You know, it's so startling to see a big leaguer drop it because basically they make the play look so effortless, so easy. And when they don't make it, can't believe it. So with 2 on and 1 out, Chet Lemon coming up. And Lemon, if there would be such a thing as a left-hander's post office, his picture would be on the wall. Not only does he eat up Black, he eats up all left-handers. He hit .384. He was the top hitter in the American League against left-hand pitchers. So it looks like the Tigers have the right man up there at the right time. Parrish at second, Herndon at first, 1 out, 1-0 Royals in the 4th. Ball 1.
Remember the last time Lemon was up, he hit that ball hard to right field. Looked like a fastball out over the plate, and he went with it. A little battle going on here between Black and Lemon.
Lemon gets hit a lot by pitches. He was nailed last year for the 100th time. Almost 101. In fact, he's led the American League 3 of the last 4 years in being hit by pitches.
That's the hardest pitch that he's come inside with. Hauser taking a good look, but now he's behind 2-0, and you know Lemon's got the hit sign from Grammas at third base.
2-0 the count. Parrish taking his lead at second. Herndon away from first. 1 away. That's in there. 2-1. Black has allowed 4 hits, struck out 2, has not walked anybody, and would probably be out of the inning, but Sparky got a break when Concepcion dropped the ball. 1-0 Royals. Lemon followed by Barbaro Garbet. He challenged him. He slipped that in nicely in the count 2-2.
Here's where he's got to challenge him now with 1 out, 2-2. He certainly doesn't want to run to 3-2. And Sundberg, I'm sure, well, he's going out there now to remind him, hey, this is the pitch we got to make it happen right here. Probably telling him, regardless of what I put down, here's what I want. If you miss, here's what I want.
One thing about Lemon last year, he struck out more times last year than he had since 1977. And you don't have too much speed on the base pads. They are not holding Herndon, and they're not really worrying about Parrish running. So let's see if Lemon makes contact here. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Foul tipped, and it spins away.
Tough pitch. He fought off a tough pitch. It was a hard slider, hard breaking ball. Got it in a good spot, low and inside, and Lemon really fights off a good pitch. But you can see Black snap it off.
You know, they pitched him tough last year in the championship series. Lemon was 0 for 13. Now let's see if they put the squeeze on him now. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Time.
You may have noticed with that super duper shot that we showed you too that Black looks away from the hitter, and that's always distracting to the hitter that the pitcher's not looking at you at all times.
1 out. Parrish at second, Herndon at first. 4th inning, 1-0 Royals. 2-2. Ball 3. Now we'll see if Sparky, without any speed out on the base paths and with a man who struck out over 80 times, is going to gamble.
I got to run him.
We'll see.
You want to join? What do you do?
I would, yeah.
Okay. We're trying to help you, Spark.
Parrish at second and Herndon at first.
That's the way you should watch a ball game, though. Make decisions.
And then don't tell anybody if you're wrong.
Well, what's the difference if you're wrong?
3-2, and the runners go, and the pitch is hit to the hole at short, backhanded by Concepcion. He'll throw to first, not in time. Now, if the runners were not going, Concepcion would have had a play on Herndon. So it paid off. Nice going, Joe.
See how smart we looked on that one?
It'll be a base hit. The bases are loaded.
He makes a good play getting over there, but he knows he's only plays at first base, and for some reason, Lemon really wasn't chugging. It was much closer than it really should have been.
And, of course, for Bud Black and for Onyx Concepcion, the big play was the double play ball that Herndon hit. The inning should be over. Instead, because of the break, the Tigers have the bases loaded, 1 out, and Barbaro Garbet the hitter. The Royals in double play depth, although Brett comes up even with the bag at third. Black's going to pitch out of a stretch. Garbey hit into a force play. He hit the ball to Brett in the second inning. Ball one. So Lemon at first, Herndon at second, Parrish at third, and Black beside himself with one out. One ball and one strike. Garbey, as you can see, was particularly tough with runners in scoring position. He's got a big chance now. In there. One ball and two strikes to Garbey.
I think he caught Garbey before he was ready. Kind of halfway quick pitched him.
Behind Bud Black is Mike Lacoste throwing in the Royals bullpen. That's high. So the big skinny redhead who pitched over at Cincinnati among other places down in the pen for the Royals. Mike was saying he was the 10th pitcher on the squad, and that could change. One of two new faces here. Fisted foul. The other, of course, is Jim Sundberg. So 2 balls and 2 strikes to Barbaro Garbey. Bases loaded, 1 out in the 4th. 1-0 Kansas City. Lemon is at first. Larry Herndon with his umpire at second, Al Clark, blowing bubbles, and Lance Parrish at third. Garbey right on that plate. And they pitch him away. 3-2. So with 1 out, they've certainly gone as far as they can go here in Kansas City. And Marty Castillo is on deck. Full count with 1 out. Beaten foul into the dirt. As Charlie Dressen used to call him, an old worm killer.
Worm killer. Rub worm.
3-2. Full house behind Black. Lacoste throwing in the pen, and the Royals leading 1-0 on a first inning triple by Willie Wilson. And then Dick Hauser saw George Brett pick him up with a single to center. Ground ball down to Brett. He's up with it. He goes to Frank White. They get one to Balboni. Double play. So 2 chances for the DP, and they got 1, and it's still 1-0 Royals.
Here's that double play. Watch Brett as he gets the ball, knows the runner. He kind of hesitates there to make sure that he's going to get the ball to White in good shape, and White really turns it over nicely. And you got to give Bud Black a little bit of credit there, because he could have been down, upset, and everything else, but he came right back and got a second chance.
There's a line drive base hit into center field from Steve Balboni, who has hit in all 4 games in this young year. After striking out in the first inning, Steve bangs one, and that'll bring up Darryl Motley. 4 hits off Jack Morris. He has also walked 3, so he's been a little on the wild side. Motley 1 for 1, singled in the second inning. The Tigers have come up with 2 double plays, and the Royals 1. Breaking ball in there. 0-1 the count. On deck, Frank White.
Morris checking to see who's covering. Trammell says, I'm covering, even though there is a right-handed batter up there.
By the way, when you talk about who's covering, the next thought is, well, Balboni is the runner. Balboni last year in 126 games did not steal a base. The year before with the Yankees, no stolen bases. He has never stolen a base in the big leagues. Ground ball down to Trammell. He'll feed his second baseman, Patero, and they pick it up at the other end for the double play. So that is 3 straight innings where the Tigers have come up with a double play.
Watch Trammell feed that ball just right out of the Spalding guide. Underhands the ball, shows it to the second baseman Patero all the way. No trick plays, just very easily let her high and boom, double play.
Talking about Frank White's career, as you see, he has 17 home runs as a high. Change is lifted to left field and down the corner. Hooking foul. It'll go out of play so we can conclude the thought. The 5 players in the American League with the longest continuous service with one team. Number 1 is Dwight Evans of the Red Sox, hooked up in 72. Hal McRae is number 2 with Kansas City in 73. Frank White, Kansas City in June of 73. Then you have Charlie Moore in Milwaukee late in 73 and George Brett May of 74. So the point being, of the 5 tops in continuous service, 3 of the 5 are here in Kansas City, the home of the lifetime contract.
And there you see Brett. That's Fogelman's idea with these lifetime contracts, because the fans, I know when we were kids, you had a favorite player and he stayed there a while.
1 ball, 1 strike. They're going to check it first. No swing, says Don Denkinger, and they count 2 balls and 1 strike. It's 1-0 Royals, bottom of the 4th inning, 2 out. The only run, if you missed it, Willie Wilson tripled. George Brett singled him home in the 1st inning. 2-1 to Frank. Ball 3. Of course, talking about great stories, anytime these 2 clubs get together, you look in the bullpen. Willie Hernandez was number 1 in games. Quisenberry was 2. Aurelio Lopez was 3. Hernandez was the MVP. Quisenberry was 3rd in the voting, and Hernandez was the Cy Young Award winner. Quisenberry was 2nd. So they have really got some illustrious bullpen men here, as Frank White picks up the walk, the 4th walk given up by Jack Morris. The most walks in a game as we look at the Kansas City bullpen. 3 times last year, Jack Morris walked 6. Jim Sundberg, with the outfield fanned out, 2 down in the 4th, 1-0 Kansas City. Sundberg hit into a double play in the 2nd inning. A bluff, a pitch out, no further action. 1 ball and no strikes. Marty Castillo certainly does not get the headlines of a Lance Parrish, nor does he deserve them. But Castillo, behind the plate for Detroit, throws about as well as Parrish. He has an excellent arm.
Yes, he does.
1-1.
Surprised he pitched out. I'm trying to figure out what prompted him to pitch out. You know, Roger Craig used to call all the pitch outs for Sparky. I wonder if Sparky's doing it on his own right now. The situation didn't call for a run.
White only stole 5 bases last year. Ground ball slowly to 3rd. Tommy Brookins in a hurry and gets him. So a base hit, a man left, and that's it at the end of 4, 1-0 Royals. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Well, that's what the man said. In this division, you can go from 1st to 5th awfully quick. But I'll tell you, Sparky, not only does he have a grip on it, he's going to do all he can to keep that from happening. You look at the American League East champions, that tells you something.
Well, what a fall away, huh? From 1st to 5th, 3 consecutive years, and now everybody looks at Detroit. Well, you can also go from dry to wet, because we have a few raindrops coming down, as Marty Castillo, Chris Patero, and then Tommy Brookins. That's in there for a strike. Castillo popped up in the 3rd inning, lifted to White. Marty 0 for 1. No balls, 1 strike. 1-1. Bud Black and Jack Morris. Two and 1. The 2 winningest teams in the last several years. The Cincinnati Reds of 75 won 108 games. And the Detroit Tigers of 84, 104. And each team managed by Sparky Anderson. 3-1 to Marty Castillo. That's in there. 3-2. 1-0 Royals. We're in the 5th inning. Detroit with a golden chance, left Brookins at the tying run at third with 2 out in the third, and then had Garbet hit into a double play with the bases loaded in the fourth. There's his shot up the alley in right center. Pat Sheridan flags it on the run. A fine play by Sheridan. Quickly, let's go to New York.
All right, Vinny, in Atlanta, top of the 5th, Padres with runners at second and third. Mark Thurman, the pitcher, hits a foul third base side. Ramirez makes the play. Flannery tags. Looks like they can get him, but the throw is wide. Templeton later scored on a single by Bunbury. It is 2-0 Padres, bottom of the 5th.
Well, at least they're not fighting.
Yeah, they usually have a little fight down there.
1 away, and here's Chris Patero. Takes ball 1, 1-0. Patero followed by Brookins. 1 run, 4 hits for the Royals. No runs, 5 hits for the Tigers. Tigers have left 4, and Kansas City has left a man an inning. One and 1. 1-2. Remember, Patero struck out trying to take an outside pitch to right field.
Let's see where Sundberg sets up this time.
High fly ball to straightaway center. Willie Wilson ought to put that in a ball bag, and does. So we have 2 out. And Tom Brookins coming up. Brookins fly to center and tripled. Brookins was on the DL for a little while last year. He had a pulled hamstring in August. Played in the World Series, you might remember, a defensive replacement in 3 games. Had 6 years in the big leagues. And promptly whacks that in left field, but Darryl Motley has a beat on it, so Black gives up 3 fly ball outs. One of them a fine running catch in right field by Pat Sheridan, and it's still Royals 1, Tigers nothing. A reminder, Family Circle Cup tennis from Hilton Head, South Carolina, coming up next, where Chrissy Everett Lloyd will try to retain the title she's won 7 times, right here on NBC Sports. Onyx Concepcion will start it off. Then Willie Wilson and Pat Sheridan, 1-0 in the rain in favor of the Royals. Concepcion hit his only home run in his big league career, as you see Brett icing that knee that took the shot. Strike. 1-1.
You know, one of the misnomers in baseball, Vin, is the umpire calling strike. I don't know of an umpire who really says strike. Listen to Drew Coble when he calls it.
Did you hear that? Ball.
Ball. Why, he'll say, yeah. Ball.
Sounds like a mule train.
You never hear him say strike.
2-1 to Onyx Concepcion. Fly ball to right field. Gibson will get his face wet as he looks up at that. 1 down, and let's leave rainy Kansas City and go to the dry studios in New York.
All right, Vinny, the Red Sox have put on an offensive show here opening week today against the White Sox. Bottom of the 2nd, Tony Armas goes over the green monster and left against Floyd Bannister. The Majors' home run leader a year ago has 2 already in '85, and it's 2-1 Red Sox.
Do you not get the feeling we will go to the land of the bean and the cod several times this year? Great change, and you hear that, hey-yah.
Hey-ah.
Get that mule team. Talking about the mule team, the good ground crew is poised and at the ready in case we have to put the tarp out on the infield. 0-2.
And he went to diction school. He's one of the better ones. And he's got 2 ERs.
The Dutch Rennert school of letting everybody know. 0-2 the count. Willie Wilson tripled and scored a run, walked, and was cut down on a double play in the 3rd inning. So down goes Wilson. Fastball down around the knees. Interestingly enough, that's only the 2nd strikeout for Jack Morris, who, as we said, had 10 last year in a high over the California Angels. He struck out Balboni in the 1st inning. Now he nails Wilson. And here is Pat Sheridan who's an unlucky hitter, fouled out and then blistered a ball, and Garbe turned it into a double play. Strike. Pat Sheridan made a nice running catch in right field, and this time Garbe can't get it as he hits it into right. So Pat Sheridan, who was born in Ann Arbor,
The third baseman, George Brett.
bangs it into right. A 2-out single will bring up George Brett. And of course, anytime Brett faces Morris, you are in a high rent district. 1-0 Royals, bottom of the 5th inning, in a rainfall, a light shower. Remember, this field, the permeability of the rug is such that the water goes right through. So we shouldn't have any puddles at all. Well, unless we have a cloud burst, we'll keep going. Brett has been eating up Morris. Lifetime now. He has 16 hits and 35 at-bats. Look at that. 457. 1-0. Change. 1-1 to count.
Surprised he even throws that to him with that big hole between first and second, a ball that he can pull.
One ball and one strike. In the dirt, ball 2, 2-1. Brett, with his remarkable career, a good stop by Marty Castillo. Brett, being banged up last year, wound up hitting .284, breaking a string of years where he hit over .300, and of course the brilliant 1980 season that saw him hit .390. He missed the first 33 games last season. 2-1 to George. 2-2. So 2 down, bottom of the 5th. Royals 1, Tigers 0. Jack Morris and Bud Black. Pat Sheridan held on at first by Barbaro Garbe. Two and two. You have quite a contrast when you look at these two clubs and think about last year. And that's on the corner, and Morris puts George Brett away. His second in the inning, his third in the game, 1 man left. We're proud to bring you a special feature on NBC's Game of the Week, highlighting some memorable moments from baseball's past. Baseball remembers. We're going to the 6th inning. This is Ben Scully along with Joe Garagiola. The Royals 1 run, 5 hits and an error. The Tigers no runs, 5 hits and no errors. Hope things are going okay for you wherever you may be. It has just about stopped drizzling here in Kansas City. And it'll be Alan Trammell, followed by Kirk Gibson, and then Lance Parrish against Bud Black. Alan Trammell, flied to center, flied to right, a possessor of 4 gold gloves. In fact, what a glistening display case we can have just in this game. There are 21 gold gloves here. Trammell with 4, Whitaker and Parrish with 2 each. And for Kansas City, Sundberg a half a dozen, Frank White a half a dozen, and Willie Wilson 1. Ground ball up the middle, and White backhand, sets, throws, got him.
Kirk Gibson is coming up, and man, remember last year in the World Series against Gossage?
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Gibson live takes a strike. Boy, you hear that crowd and see that thing, and the goosebumps just pop up after all these years. 0-1. On the hands, he didn't get enough of it. You could hear that. Sounded like he hit it more with the Sporting News. So 2 down. Lance Parrish will be coming up, and we'll go to New York.
All right, Vinny, bottom of the 5th in Atlanta. The Braves have tied it up. Clutch hit by Claudel Washington, who goes with the pitch with 2 out. Scores Glenn Hubbard and Chris Chambliss. Washington ends up with a 2-run double. 2-2. Braves and Padres are tied up now, top of the 6th. Back to Kansas City.
Well, those two ought to really be scrambling. And, of course, with San Diego very prominently in that report with Atlanta, brings up that fair city. Bud Black attended San Diego State along with the pride of the Padres, Tony Gwynn. Lance Parrish singled off George Brett's knee and single to left. Chopper to third. Brett, of course, thinking, why don't they have a designated fielder when Parrish is up there?
Put a pair of shin guards on when he's hitting.
Buy somebody to play for him.
Yeah.
1-1. 1-0 Royals on a triple and a single by Brett in the first inning.
You got to like the way Black pitches. Moves that ball around, in and out, and with Gibson, hitter before, he sidearmed him. The only fella he sidearmed in the lineup.
Crowding him again. Like Jack Morris, Black won on opening day. Pitched a strong game. And he has to stay in if he misses. Parrish led the league with 32 home runs as a catcher. Fouled away. Black beat Toronto 2-1. Got into the 8th inning with 2 out, allowed 4 hits, and finally came out.
That's why just statistics do not tell the whole story. They tell a lot of it, but they don't tell the whole story because look at the guys Black has to pitch against.
Right. That's right. Toronto and now Detroit. And he had to beat Dave Stieb of Toronto, and now he has to beat Jack Morris. 3-2. High pop fly, back of first. Balboni laboring after it. Here comes Frank White, and it will be White. Usually the second baseman is the first baseman's caddy anyway. So at the end of 5 1/2, Royals 1, Tigers 0. A reminder next week, the NBC Major League Game of the Week. The New York Mets against the Phillies, who have stumbled in the early going, and the Red Sox, who are giving the Yankees a bad time, will now zero in next Saturday on the White Sox. Right here on NBC.
How about that Gary Carter, man? He's playing like he's dressing in a telephone booth, isn't he?
That first game he played must have been the worst start for a star with a new team in history, and then he winds up hitting a home run to win it. Remarkable. Here's George Orta, followed by Steve Balboni and then Darrell Motley. Ground ball to the right side. Chris Patero is there. 1 away.
You wonder how your mind works, and I'm sure that Castillo behind the plate is thinking about it. Now, Orta just hit the first pitch. Balboni struck out his first time up, chased a bad curveball, and then his last time up, he jumped on the first pitch and got a base hit to center field. These are all the things you try to put in that little brain and work something out to see if you can get him. You got to watch that first pitch again.
And he was right after the fastball and fouled it back. Balboni with a base hit has hit in all 4 games this year. But of course, they're looking for sock from Steve. It's 1-0 Royals in the bottom of the 6th. Change. And he pulled it foul. I think Jack got away with a bad pitch that time, a high change. And Balboni must have thought it looked like a basketball.
He kicked that whole body into action. Here is Morris now. It may be that split finger. It is. Here it comes. You can see that rotation, and Balboni, boy, somebody put a jumper cable on his nose, and he went to work.
28 home runs to lead the club last year. Missed under the hands. 1-2. The Yankees leading Cleveland, trying to quiet the wrath of the owner.
Call a pitch. I say it's a curveball. See if he chases it.
Fastball got him swinging.
See how wrong I was?
Well, once in a while, you know. Jack really gave him a little heat now for his 4th strikeout. It was zap. He almost throws this as if he's saying, I'm tired of throwing you junk. Here, hit this thing.
He picks up that target, and he just lets it fly. He's got everything into it.
The only thing to slow that down is the camera.
That's the way the ball must look to those good hitters, though. Slow all the time.
Darrell Motley takes ball 1. Motley today singled and hit into a double play. Darrell 1 for 2. High fly ball, and field. Larry Herndon has a play. So the side retired in the 6th inning, and it's still 1-0 Royals at the end of 6. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
And you can make all kinds of cases, artificial surface, good hitters and all that, but it comes down to pitching.
And you know, coming down to pitching, 6 innings have been played. You know, Jack Morris has made 1 more pitch than Bud Black. That's the difference.
What can I say?
Yeah.
It must be great catching, too. Get that in.
That's right. That's right. So nice and easy. 1-0 in favor of Kansas City on a first-inning triple by Willie Wilson. And then a single by George Brett. Larry Herndon flied to right, hit what appeared to be a key play when he grounded into an apparent double play, only to have Onyx Concepcion drop the throw by Frank White. And it looked like, now the Tigers are going to come alive. And after Lemon single to load the bases, Garbet hit into the double play, and they came up empty. So they're still down 1-0. Herndon 0 for 2.
I don't know if he was really thinking the bunt, but I'll tell you, he's got Brett way back, and Balboni is way back. He could have walked to first base. There you see it.
1-0 to Larry Herndon. Herndon was off to a terrible start last year, but of course they could afford to carry him because everybody else was doing so well. And then in August he hit over 350, and the same thing in September. Foul back. He went into the league championship series and homered in game 1. That was a game Detroit beat Kansas City 8-1. He also hit the game-winning home run in game 1 of the World Series. So he finished up what would have been a poor year on some high notes. 2 balls, 1 strike. 3-1. Sparky Anderson. Figuring his ball club will be there, but in the American League East, that doesn't tell you too much. Remember that chart we showed you earlier, what happens to the winner in the East the last few years? They wound up 5th. That's a strike. Bud Black has gotten 2 fine defensive plays of late by Pat Sheridan in right field on Castillo's ball, and Frank White on a ball hit by Trammell in the 6th. Ground ball back a third. Brett almost on the line and throws him out. So Black, who has pitched well anyway, has really settled down. He has allowed a hit to Lemon in the 4th inning and retired the next 8 in a row. So here comes Lemon. There they are, rolling around in the Georgia dirt. 2-2 in the 6th inning. San Diego and Atlanta. And we're cutting it just as close. It's 1-0 here, Royals. Top of the 7th. Chet Lemon single to right and single to short. Foul ball. 1-1. Lemon 2 for 2. There's a light wave building up here in the stands, the reason for the noise in the background. They're just starting to loosen up a wave here in the Midwest. One ball and 1 strike. And Black backs off for the moment. It might actually be affecting his concentration. Now he locks back in. Ask you, when you played, did the crowd ever distract you, or are you so accustomed to people and roars that you don't even know they're there?
Oh, no. You know they're there. Make a bad play, you know it. Make a good play, you know it. You just can't ignore it.
2-1. Ball 3. I'm sure you can hear the occasional voice, hey, you meathead, or whatever, but if you're up there hitting in a big spot and the crowd is roaring, you're aware of that too?
Yeah, I was.
3-1. Ground hard, and Brett staggers and stays with it. Fine play by George to take out Lemon. So that's That's 9 in a row, and that's 3 of the 9 excellent defensive plays.
George stays right with it. You see him put the tailgate down so it doesn't get through him, and he makes the play. I'll tell you, though, about the wave, as we look at the replay once again. I'm for legislating it out. I've had it with the wave.
Yeah, it's, well, I don't know. If it makes people happy, there's really, without being a Pollyanna, if they're happy, that's fine. Ball 1. It's distracting, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it used to be you could go to the ballpark and do what you want. Now you got to work. You got to wave. The scoreboard tells you to clap, make noise.
Fans will have agents, and you'll have designated waivers. The 1-0 pitch in there, 1-1.
Frank White called time to get some sunglasses. The lights are on, but it's a bit glary out there, and Al Clark was carrying the sunglasses, just gave them to Frank.
In there, 1-2 the count to Barbaro Garbe with 2 out in the 7th inning. Black pitching a gem, and it's Royals 1, Tigers nothing. Hit foul off to the right, out of play in the lower deck. Rattling right down the runway where it's caught by a fan. Still 1-2. 1 run, 5 hits, 1 error for the Royals, no runs, 5 hits for Detroit. Black has stranded 4 in the first 4 innings, and now he has not allowed anybody to get on. Yeah, he takes care of Garbe. So he's retired 10 in a row, and at the end of 6.5 innings, Royals 1, Tigers nothing. You had to kind of look fast to see it in the first inning. Willie Wilson hit the first pitch for a triple into the right field corner, and 1 out later, George Brett single to center, and that's it. Royals 1, Tigers nothing, and we're moving to the bottom of the 7th inning. Frank White, followed by Jim Sundberg, and then Onyx Concepcion. White has walked twice. He had a big year against the Tigers. Wilson, Orta, and White gave Detroit pitching a bad time last year. Line foul. 0-1.
Mike Ferraro, the third base coach, really gives the right-handed batters a lot of room. He's way out of the coach's box. He must be, look how far out he is. He's not about to get hit.
Don't blame him. No balls and 1 strike to count. Fastball fouled right into the mask of Drew Coble.
Oh, man, that's one of those real rattlers, boy. There goes the fillings. They're loose. Check it out. Check the mask, and you just... I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's a feeling you get of putting your head inside a bell. Dunk, right in the middle.
And he's saying, my mother wanted me to be an accountant.
Yeah. Oh, man, that doesn't feel good at all.
0-2. Chased one in the dirt, dug out by Castillo, gets the angle and throws him out. So White becomes Morris's 5th strikeout. More importantly, he has struck out 4 in the last 2 1/3 innings. So he is suddenly picking up that strikeout pitch. Jim Sundberg hit into a double play, grounded to third, 0 for 2.
And Morris is a kind of a pitcher who, when he goes out there, he gets the complete game, which is very difficult with Sparky managing, you know, Captain Hook at Cincinnati.
That's right. Jim Sundberg trying to get something started. Bright sunshine coming out now. 1 ball, no strikes. Fastball down the pipe. That balances things up, 1-1. To look ahead, when the Tigers hit in the 8th inning, they have Marty Castillo, Chris Patero, and then Tommy Brookins. And you can see the traces of blue overhead. 1-1. Fastball hit by the mound. Trammell on a tricky hop. 2 down.
The shortstop, Onyx Concepcion.
You know, I think we would all agree that the American League East is perhaps the toughest division in baseball. I won't hedge. It is the toughest division, I think. The Kansas City Royals play 35 consecutive games against the American League East.
Tough schedule. Oh.
They don't get a breather until the 20th of May when they finally play Texas. Ball one, 1-0. 2 down, bases empty in the 7th. 1-0 Royals. The American League West has been pretty much maligned over the years, and Kansas City is the only West club that has a winning record against the East for the last 7. Ground ball to Trammell. That takes care of Concepcion. 7 in a row retired by Jack Morris, and at the end of 7, the Royals won, the Tigers nothing, and here comes Detroit. Bud Black's numbers. He is nursing a 1-0 lead into the 8th inning. He has not walked a batter while striking out 3, and he's allowed 5 hits, and he's working on Marty Castillo. One of the big changes as we look at Castillo, one of the big changes for Kansas City would be that pitching staff, and Black would be one of the mainstays. Fastball, missed, ball 2. In September of '83, Kansas City's pitching staff was Larry Gura, Gaylord Perry, Paul Splittor, Eric Rasmussen, and Bud Black. They averaged 35 years. A drive into left center, but it's an easy play for Motley. 1 away. This year, the Kansas City pitching staff, spearheaded by Bud Black, then Mark Bubiza, Brett Saberhagen, who is just 21, Danny Jackson, and Charlie Leibrandt. It's been a complete overhaul in the pitching staff.
Which gives another dimension to the value of a Sundberg, who's been around the league, knows the hitters, and can babysit these pitchers.
And I'm sure they need it, and he's just the one to do it. But here's Patero as time begins to run out on Detroit, and he bangs it into left field. So he had 3 hits in his debut. Now he goes 1 for 3 today with a hard single to left, and that breaks a string of 11 consecutive outs for Bud Black. As Patero singles, representing the tying run. The Tigers have had the tying run considering the run scored in the 1st inning. They've had the tying run on base in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and now here in the 8th. They were completely shut down in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. It is getting to be that time, and in Kansas City, Quisenberry time.
Patero, very aggressive hitter, you know? He swings the bat. I mean, got the one, he's 1 for 3, struck out once, but he gets his cuts up there.
Very close. Black gave him a good move and really went after him. So Patero off the bag, carrying the tying run. 1-0 Royals, top of the 8th.
He's got him leaning back. Patero's trying to measure him with the right foot just barely on the artificial surface. He'll edge out there, see if he gets that far this time. Same lead, but he was leaning back.
In there, 0-1. Patero at Birmingham last year stole 18 bases, so you know he runs pretty well, but he really doesn't have that much knowledge of pitchers' moves.
It's a learning process, certainly, for him, and what he has to do is get a big enough lead to have a Bud Black put the good move on him so he knows exactly what he's doing.
0-1 the count. Brookins 1 for 3, a triple, but they left him. The triple came with 2 out, and Alan Trammell flied to right. Whitaker figures to be back in the starting lineup at second base tomorrow, and Patero will go over to third, and Brookins will sit it out. Fouled away. 0-2. 1 out in the 8th. 1-0 Royals.
Before the game, we were talking to Sparky about Patero, and he was talking about instincts, that you really can't teach instincts. You do certain things by instinct, and just the way he gets that lead and the way he's jockeying around there, you can see he's had good training.
0-2. And a wild pitch, and Black really missed Sundberg, and that's an expensive pitch, allowing the tying run to go to second. So on 0-2, he lets one get away.
Big mistake, because not only does the tying run go to second, as we look at it, he just lets it go high. I mean, that's a major league wild pitch. You lose a chance for the double play now. That's another big thing.
So a runner at second with 1 out. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Tom Brookins with Alan Trammell on deck, and Sundberg decides maybe I better stroke his feathers a little bit before he pitches another one.
Well, he could be changing signs, but with Patero at second base, I don't think he would concern himself that much. And maybe he's just settling him down and hoping that he finds a different pitcher out there when he goes back there as we look at Quisenberry, who's getting ready.
Dan was nailed by George Bell the other night for the rare game-winning home run. The great right-hander began to stretch out. 1-2 the count. Brookins trying to pick up the tying run. Patero at second base. One away in the 8th. 1-0 Royals. Missed 2-2. If you're wondering, last year the Tigers were shut out 6 times. Oddly enough, 3 times by Boston. You think of the Red Sox, but you don't think of them shutting out Detroit. The last time, Oil Can Boyd shut him out 8-0. And there's a drive into right. Digging is Pat Sheridan, but it's in there. And as he recovers, the run will score. And going into second base is Brookins to tie it up with his double. So Tom Brookins, who is playing because Whitaker isn't, has a double and a triple, knocks in the tying run. And you can see the ball splash in right field.
He didn't hit that ball hard, but he hit it in a perfect spot. And all Sheridan could do is fire to second base because Patero was going to score easily. And here comes Gary Blaylock out, the pitching coach for Kansas City. And may have a pitching change here.
And I would think the way Patero runs, he would have scored from first on that ball. But we'll never know. I also think in watching, that outfield is so wet. If you notice Sheridan, he really took a very concentrated effort to throw the ball. I think when the ball takes 2 or 3 bounces in the outfield, an outfield is now going to pick up almost a wet bar of soap to throw. And that could be a factor, let's say on a base hit to left field and the tying or game-winning run coming to the plate. It could be a tough throw. So Patero brings home the tying run, and they will put Trammell aboard, and it'll bring up Gibson. This is the first walk given up by Bud Black, intentionally granted.
It's kind of interesting. Tough man to double up. Gibson
and then Parrish. So for a moment at least, it'll be left-hander against left-hander. 3-0 the count. In the inning, Castillo flied out, but Patero singled and was wild pitched to second on an 0-2 pitch to Brookins. Brookins and doubled in Patero to tie up the game, and they walk Trammell. Let's watch Patero scoring. Right there. He just got a corner of the bag. I mean, a fraction.
He kind of lost his stride. You could almost see him do just a little stutter step as he rounded third. But he got enough of it.
That would have been a tough break, especially for a rookie, to be carrying the tying run in the 8th inning and then miss third base. Fortunately for him, he got it.
Black sidearmed Gibson. He's the only guy he's sidearmed here.
Gibson, a big guy who runs so well, as we just pointed out, toughest to double up. He has Trammell at first, Brookins at second, 1 out in the 8th, a 1-1 tie. Gibson is 0 for 3. He held up, and it got the inside corner. Good pitch. Gibson lost a hit on a fine play by Frank White in the first inning. He struck out in the 4th and flied to right in the 6th. No balls, 1 strike. On the hand, so the pattern is to keep it right in on top of him in the count 0-2. Black, remember, had Brookins 0-2, threw the wild pitch and then surrendered the double. Brookins at second, Trammell at first, 1 away. Fouled away again upstairs. If you're thinking strikeout and watching Black, his high for strikeouts last year, he had 9 in a game over the Chicago White Sox. And of course, Gibson certainly trying to avoid that. Struck out over 100 times last year. That's in the dirt. 1-2 the count.
Good play. You can see Sundberg just get in front of that ball. He's been catching one-handed, especially with nobody on base, but that one he was going to make sure it wouldn't get by. Watch him. Good lesson for the young catcher. Get that body in front of it. Look at there. As a breaking ball, because you can see it break back to the right side.
1-2 to Kirk Gibson. Just ran it away. So after first getting 2 in on the hands, then going into the dirt, he decided to go away one time, and he's evened it up 2-2.
He's got to make it happen here, 2-2. Otherwise, he'll lose a couple steps. If he goes to 3-2, those runners will be going.
Fouled away. So Gibson keeps hacking, and Bud Black keeps pitching, and Sparky deep in thought. 2-2. You know, you read about Sparky going to the hospital. What happened was he was on the team bus, sitting in the front seat. He draped his leg over the bar, the protective bar in front of the seat, fell asleep for an hour and a half, and he had a pinched nerve in the leg, but it appeared to be phlebitis. He went to the hospital, got a clean bill of health, and here he is blowing bubbles. Meanwhile, Dick Hauser, a completely different study. Doesn't walk around, not at all animated. 2-2. Runner goes, and the pitch is ball 3. The throw, double steal.
He had a tough ball to handle. It was low, and Brookins, a good jump, good play. Here, you'll get a good look at it right now. In fact, it's in the dirt. He does a good job coming up with it. What a pitch they picked to run. Beautiful.
Now the infield has to come up. Here's another look at it, Joe.
He shifts nicely, gets good. I mean, he's right behind the throw. He gets good stuff on it. It's just a good jump.
3-2 with runners at second and third. Got him swinging. Breaking ball down and away. Big out. So Gibson strikes out for the second time. That's 4 strikeouts for Bud Black. Boy, is he hot. One thing he didn't want to do. So 2 down, and Lance Parrish will be the hitter. First base is open. Do you put Parrish on and take your chances with Herndon? Well, we'll find out in a moment. Larry Herndon is 0 for 3, and Lance Parrish is 2 for 3. And they're going to put him on. Give him 4. There are 2 intentional walks in the inning, which is a tip-off on Detroit. Last year, they received the most intentional walks in the American League.
This usually is a spot where the manager comes out and says, now, if you want to walk him, okay, don't give him a good ball to hit. But I tell you, Hauser took the monkey right off their back and said, put him on right now. Don't fool with them.
Remember, we were mentioning earlier about how much better Herndon hits against left-handers than right-handers, like 75 points. And Quisenberry has been down there now for 20 minutes. If they want to make the move, and if they are going to make the move, this would appear to be the time.
The left fielder, Larry Herndon.
2 down. A 1-1 tie in the 8th inning, and Herndon is coming up, and Black is staying in.
He is strong, though. Black is strong.
Yeah, Black went 9 innings 7 times last year. That's 20% of his starts, and in this day and age, that's very good.
Especially with a Quisenberry in the bullpen.
Yeah, and how. Okay, bases loaded. Parrish, Trammell, and Brookins. And Black trying to get out of the jam. 0-1. The skies, like Detroit, threatening. 1 run, 7 hits for the Tigers. 1 run, 5 hits for the Royals, with 2 out in the 8th inning. Kansas City will have Wilson, Sheridan, and Brett in the bottom of the 8th. Now he's hurting. 2-0. Bases jammed. Herndon last year led the club in this spot with 4 walks with the bases loaded. So evidently Larry has a very good eye for the strike zone. And Black has all the heat on him. 2-0. With that good eye, Sparky might give him the 2-0 sign and then just let him swing away if he likes the pitch.
Oh, you can bet he's got the green light.
2 balls, no strikes. Ball 3.
Now's a decision. Do you let him hit 3-0?
Oh, no.
I wouldn't either, but I mean, now Sundberg's got to settle his pitcher down once again.
You know, the thing that has always plagued a manager like Hauser, who has ordered 2 intentional walks in 1 inning, it usually hurts the pitcher's control because you are telling him to do something he doesn't want to do. You're telling him to purposely miss the strike zone, and he's had to do that 8 times in this inning.
I can't agree with that, Mr. Scully.
All right. Well, let's see what happens. 3-0.
If he's a major league pitcher, all he's done is 4 out there and get your concentration back.
The 3-0 pitch to Herndon. At the knees and barely at the knees. I don't think Larry was too happy. Black, just about on schedule. He's made 119 pitches in the 8th inning. That's fine. Now the big call for Sparky. 3-1 to count to Herndon.
Gotta let him hit.
Parrish, Trammell, and Brookins. And ball 4. So as he did last year, he draws the walk with the bases loaded. And the Tigers lead 2-1. And Dick Hauser coming out. The reason for the boos, of course, the people are saying, why was Quisenberry throwing? And I'm sure Dick has a very good answer. It doesn't help. The bases remain loaded. That's the 3rd walk in the game for Black, all here in the 8th inning, after he was allowed to walk 2 intentionally. But don't tell Joe.
There's no defense against the base on balls.
Well, they're bringing in Quiz, and Bud Black is heading for the clubhouse. Tigers 2, Royals 1. Lemon will be coming up with the bases loaded and 2 out in the 8th.
Bill McAtee back in New York. Much has been written this season about Eric Davis, the Reds' rookie center fielder who had a solid spring. But watch him miss the ball here on a hit by Kelvin Chapman. Chapman winds up at 3rd. He scored later on Keith Hernandez's sacrifice. 1-1. They're tied in the 7th. Back to Kansas City.
We don't have to defend Dick Hauser, but if you want to join along in the thinking game, one of the reasons he had perhaps delayed in bringing in Quisenberry was the presence of some pretty good left-handed bats in the Detroit dugout, like Lou Whitaker and Dave Bergman, Darrell Evans, and he might just have preferred rather have Bud Black pitch to Larry Herndon than Quisenberry against any one of those 3. That's the tough thing. You make your decision, and that's it, and it's 2-1 Tigers. And Lemon up there with the bases loaded, still 2 out. Quisenberry, 45 saves in 83, 44 saves in 84. And Lemon, who gets hit more than anybody, gets hit with the bases loaded. And it is 3-1 Tigers. That's almost as shocking as George Bell's home run.
Ball just goes right into him. There's nothing Lemon can do but stay there and get hit. And if you're going to get hit any place, that's a good spot.
Take one for the team. How will that hurt? And that's a 3rd run charged to Black. So Lemon 107 times. In case you were interested, Minnie Minoso holds the American League record. He was hit 150 times. The National League record, he is in a world all his own. Ron Hunt, who was hit unbelievably 243 times. Ask Lemon how he'd like to be hit twice as much in his career.
Ron Hunt used to practice that.
What was the old Stengel line? Say, go up there and take one in the neck for the team. And now, Darrell Evans is coming up. Now, I'm pretty sure that was one reason in Dick's thinking. But it didn't work. And then he brings in Quisenberry, who proceeds to hit the right-hand hitter. And now Sparky's in for the kill. And here is Evans hitting for Garbet, and he can finish up at first. So you have Lemon, Herndon, and Parrish out on the lines. 3 runs over, and it's 3-1 Detroit. The Tigers in their home away from home, Royal Stadium. They have won 9 straight games here. The regular 6 and 2 league championship games last year and the last game in '83. 0-1 to Evans. Evans, in an ironic twist, was originally signed by the Kansas City A's back in 1967. He had 16 home runs last year, so you really have to be careful. That's on the corner. 1-2 the count. Darrell, with his 16 home runs, 15 of them were against right-handed pitching. Two down. Two and two. In the inning with 1 out, Patero singles, wild pitch to second. Brookins doubled him home to tie. Trammell walked intentionally. There was a double steal. Parrish walked, and then Herndon walked in the next run. Roller up along first, foul. Then Lemon was hit by the pitch, and the Tigers have 3.
Get a good look at Quisenberry, see what the hitters really look at. Look at that undersling, submarine style that he throws. That was the one he came inside with. He's not afraid to come inside to the left-hand hitter. And for that matter, the right-hand hitter, although he'd be doing the right-hand hitter a favor.
2-2. Check swing foul off to the left of the plate. Jones and Beckwith in the pen. Toronto, meanwhile, leading Baltimore 6-2 in the 5th inning. And San Diego has broken the tie with Atlanta, and they're in the 8th. 2-2 with the bases loaded. Ball 3. So Quisenberry has hit a batter and now goes 3-2 on Evans.
By his own admission, he can't come right down into the power zone with that ball. He's got to hit those corners.
So a full count. Parrish, Herndon, and Lemon ready to move. Fouled away. Interesting with Evans going 3-2 because of his knowledge of the strike zone. At one stage, Darrell walked in 15 consecutive games back in 1976. And last year, Evans was the only Tiger to walk more than he struck out. So he's in a spot now to do a little eyeballing. 3-2 and the bases loaded. Runners go. Line drive off the glove of Balboni and down the line. And now the first base umpire, Don Denkinger, indicates the ball was foul. There was no call for quite some time. Maybe Don thought it was obvious. Balboni had his glove on the ball. And only after it went on down the line did Don put his hands up. And Veda Pinson is saying thought it was safe, thought it was a fair ball. Wow, he was 4 feet inside the foul line.
I don't think he got a glove on it, though.
Oh, I do.
Did?
Oh, I would hock the house he got a glove on it.
Well, if he did, it's a fair ball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, pal. Watch. Right there, that hit his glove. Oh.
I think it hit it on television. In real life, it didn't.
Well, anyway, it's 3-2. It's 3-1 in favor of Detroit here in the 8th inning. 2 out, and the bases are still loaded. Parrish, Herndon, and Lemon ready to go again. And there's a drive into deep right. If it's fair, it's gone. It is foul. Evans got too much of that and hooked it. So Quisenberry is walking a little high wire act here. The only grand slam Quisenberry has allowed in his career was against a Tiger. It was Alan Trammell. He almost served up a second one. The struggle continues. 3-2. Runners ready. Runners go. Foul tipped and held by Sundberg. And down goes Evans. Quisenberry gets a man, but remember, he hit Lemon for an extra run. And at the end of 7.5, 3-1 Detroit.
Watch the reaction by Evans. The ball's inside, and he really gets it, but he's going to try to keep it fair, and then he realizes what happens now.
4 RBIs down the drain. Jack Morris, who started off slowly, gave up a run in the first inning and was struggling with his control. He walked 4, has now been on a strikeout tear and has struck out 5 in the game and leads now 3-1 in the 8th inning. Willie Wilson with Dave Bergman now at first base for Detroit. Wilson triple, walked, struck out. Tom Brookins is playing up inside the bag at third. Willie, of course, with great speed, a threat to lay one down. And Bergman is shortened up at first. Tried to wait on that ball. It's not grammatically correct, but it is certainly a baseball expression, to wait on the ball. 0-2. Well, we were talking earlier about the 2 great relief pitchers, Quisenberry and Hernandez. Quiz is in, and Willie's heating up back in the shadows of left field. 0-2. And that takes care of Willie. So Morris has struck out 6, but he struck out 5 in the last 3 1/3 innings, meaning 5 of the last 10 outs have been strikeouts. Pat Sheridan coming up. Fouled out, hit into a double play, and single to right. Since the single to right by Sheridan, the Royals have not been heard from. The last 8 in a row retired. Bouncer down to the right side. Patero is there. And for the rookie Patero, remember, when the ball club was down 1-0, he started it with the base hit in the 8th inning, and there's Willie in the pen. The MVP and the Cy Young Award winner. Dick Hauser not only knows about Willie, but he had to make one tough decision. He went with Bud Black, and it has hurt him. Black walked in a run, then he brought in Quisenberry, who hit Lemon for yet another run. Popped up by Brett, and it's Trammell who started in, who has to go back. Boy, is Jack Morris on the stick now. He's retired 10 in a row. The last hit was in the 5th inning by Kansas City, and it's 3-1 Tigers. We're going to the 9th inning. The Tigers down 1-0 since the anthem, came up with 3 in the 8th and lead 3-1 in the 9th inning. They'll have Marty Castillo, followed by Chris Patero and Tom Brookins. One of the important angles in this game is a complete turnaround of Jack Morris, Joe.
Well, I think one thing he's done, he picked up his tempo, and then he's coming over the top on a couple of his pitches. Most of the time, he's right there about 3/4, but on Willie Wilson, he came right over the top and got the strikeout. And if nothing else, what I think he's saying is, hey, I not only have control of my stuff, but like the good thoroughbred coming down the stretch, you can go to the whip. And the whip being, in this case, the fact that he's still throwing that 3/4 and over the top with good stuff.
After wobbling at the start, he's retired 10 in a row, and now they give the ball to Joe Beckwith. Joe was a pleasant surprise for the Royals as a middle reliever, and middle relievers aren't usually involved with decisions, but look at that, 8 and 4. And he was victorious in 5 of his last 7 last year. His longest stint, he went 5 innings, and at one stage he had 14 innings without allowing a run. Castillo hits it on the thumbs and fouls it back.
That's going to be the next statistic. They have victories and saves. Holds.
Yeah, right, like wrestling.
Yes, he's got 27 holds. He held the other team 27 times.
And then if you're asked to hold and you let it get away,
that's a not hold.
Squander. Ground foul. Or we'll have to invent words.
That's right, like the Sniglets.
That's it.
That's right. Or as Billy Crystal would say, marvelous.
You're looking marvelous.
Marvelous statistic.
It's 3-1 Tigers in the 9th inning. Joe Beckwith picking up for Dan Quisenberry, who picked up for Bud Black. Jack Morris just picked up his pace. Ground ball back a third, backhanded by Brett from foul ground to Balboni, who tags him going by.
A major league play because Brett was deep behind third base. Look, watch how far he has to go to get this ball. He's actually in foul territory when he cuts it loose.
And how about Castillo? He had to run around Balboni.
That could tire you out. He's not going to run into him, I'll tell you, boy. Marty's trying to get around him.
I'll bring up Patero, a switch hitter who is 1 for 3, and he goes left-handed now against Beckwith. Struck out, fly to center, and singled. Remember the Family Circle Cup tennis following from Hilton Head, South Carolina. That's a strike. 0-2. Beckwith, who underwent eye surgery in '71, has fought his way back. Fastball away. Boy, he really went through some pain as he works on Patero. Patero strikes out. Beckwith picks up 1. Quisenberry had 1 and Black had 4. And the batter with 2 out will be Tom Brookins. By the way, to look ahead, with Jack Morris pitching for Detroit, the Royals will have Jorge Orta, then Steve Balboni and Darryl Motley. And if anybody gets on, Frank White. When Beckwith had his eye operation, they had to surgically weaken a muscle to actually help him. Ooh, he really had a little smoke on that. So he had operations on each eye, and he's back in the big leagues. Hangs a breaking ball. It's banged into left field. So that means Alan Trammell will get another at-bat. And for Tom Brookins, a great turn of events. Whitaker couldn't play. Tom does, and all he does is get a single, a double, a triple, be a front man on a double steal, and handle his position.
And in the 5th inning, he lined very hard to left field, so he's hit the ball hard all day.
Tom Brookins having a big day, and now here's Trammell. Fly to center and to right, lost a base hit to Frank White, and was walked intentionally in the 8th inning. Detroit, top of the 9th. They are 3 outs away from having beaten the Royals 10 consecutive times here in Kansas City. Marty Castillo talking to Jack Morris. 0-1 the count. Taking his lead at first, Tom Brookins. They have to watch him. Remember, he was the front man on the double steal in the 8th inning. Going from 2nd to 3rd. 1-1. Balboni holding a corner on Brookins, who's eyeballing every move of Joe Beckwith. Crowd of 21,823. Very quiet. 2-1. They must be a little disillusioned. They figure the law of averages, whatever that is, would give the Royals a victory over Detroit today after that string of 9. And they saw Kansas City get a run in the 1st inning. But Kansas City really hasn't been heard from again since the 2nd inning when Motley reached 3rd base. Line drive, base hit, and the Tigers want more. So with 2 out, Brookins and Trammell single, and that brings up Gibson.
The right fielder, Kurt Gibson.
9 hits for Detroit. Gibson lost a hit to Frank White, struck out, flied to right, then came up in that big spot and struck out in the 8th inning. When Trammell got that base hit, maybe Allen is one of the big reasons why Detroit has been so successful here. He has hit now in 15 straight that he's played in here in Kansas City. As we told you, the Tigers are trying to make it 10 straight here. So Trammell at first, Brookins at second, 2 out in the 9th, 3-1 Detroit. Off speed, ball 1. Remember, Brookins was running back in the 8th inning against Black. He and Trammell pulled off that double steal.
He's able to get a big lead because Frank White is way over the second baseman, and Concepcion, the shortstop, is back, as you can see. But if you're going to run off second base with a guy like Gibson in the batter's box, you better be about 99% sure you can make it.
1-1 to Kirk. And on deck, Lance Parrish. Fouled away right into the Tiger dugout, and the count 1-2. There's Lance waiting his turn as the DH, with Marty Castillo doing the catching today. One ball and 2 strikes. Trammell at first, Brookins at second, 2 out. Tigers leading 3-1 in the 9th inning. Orta, Balboni, and Motley due up in the bottom of the 9th. Oh, hello. 2-2. So Beckwith trying to shake up Gibson a little. There's a one-hopper at Frank White. He has to wait for Balboni to get to the bag, and that takes care of Gibson. So the Tigers get 2 base hits and leave 2. And at the end of 8 1/2, the Tigers 3 runs, 9 hits. The Royals 1 run, 5. Orta, Balboni, and Motley, and maybe Frank White in the bottom of the 9th.
87-0.
Bottom of the 9th inning, the Tigers 3 runs, 9 hits, and no errors. The Royals 1 run, 5 hits, and 1 error. A magnificent performance and complete turnabout by Jack Morris. Jack a little wobbly with his control and was in trouble in the first 4 innings, and he has been overpowering after the walk to White in the 4th. So it'll be Jorge Orta. Orta has flied to left, hit back to the box, and grounded out. George 0 for 3. Ball 1. The Major League Baseball game of the week brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Light Beer from Miller, an official beer sponsor of Major League Baseball. By Armor All, it's science, but it works like magic. And by Wagner, the right tool for painting. In there, 1-1.
I think that is an incredible statistic.
What's that?
Detroit was the only team in the majors last year that won every game they led in the 9th inning. 87-0.
1-1. Ball 2. Never lost a game in the 9th inning where they had a lead.
87-0.
Pleasant year for Sparky as he visits with Alex Grammas. Talk about getting a lock on a game. He sure had it last year. 2-1. Fastball hit wide of first. Bergman is up with it, has to underhand to Morris, throws it behind him. So Dave Bergman, who is normally an excellent fielder. Instead of leading the pitcher, flipped it softly, and it wound up behind Morris. Jack tried to reach back, didn't come close. Big break. So that brings the crowd alive. Take another look. Remember, Bergman was instrumental in preserving Jack Morris' no-hitter last year. He'll draw an error.
And that's one of the plays you practice and practice and practice in spring training, and Bergman didn't get to play much this spring because of injuries, so it affected him.
So the rare error charged to Dave Bergman, and now Steve Balboni. And, of course, this guy with 28 home runs represents the tying run. Fouled away. 0-1. We have sunshine and a big black cloud overhead, both. Down in the bullpen, the left and the right of it, Hernandez and Lopez. So a mixed-up weather day.
That's two reasons they were 87-0.
And how? 0-2 to Balboni, who struck out twice and singled. Morris has struck out a half a dozen. He has allowed 1 hit since the 4th inning and 2 hits since the 2nd inning. Last year, remember, he was 5-0 in April in the dirt. In other words, he not only was 5-0, his earned run average in April was less than 2. He was 5-1 in May. But at the end of 2 months last year, Jack Morris was 10-1. Sparky working on that gum. Fastball fouled away. So Balboni trying to get one that would get the Royals back into it. Tigers, 1-2 the count, nobody out. Orta at first, Bergman on the line back of him. Swung on and missed, so the big guy strikes out for the 3rd time. That's 7 strikeouts for Jack Morris, who is now starting to get them to chase.
He's throwing it low in the dirt, and Castillo does a good job blocking it. Just stayed in front of it. Of course, he doesn't have to make a play with the runner on at first base. It's just a simple strikeout.
7 strikeouts for Jack Morris. Here's Darryl Motley, singled, hit into a double play, flied to left. Fastball foul back. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball is Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's Game of the Week, produced by George Finkel, directed by Harry Coyle. Pregame produced by Les Dennis. Pregame directed by Mary Buda Lamusio, and technical directors Bruce Berquist and Sal Nagita. 0-1 to Darryl Motley. Ground ball back to third, fielded there by Brookins. Down to second but 1, back to first. Double play, the 4th Tiger double play, and that wraps it up for Jack Morris, who is our NBC Light Beer Most Valuable Player Award winner for today. 4 double plays, and Light Beer from Miller happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Jack Morris to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. For Detroit, 3 runs, 9 hits, and 1 error. For the Royals, 1 run, 5 hits, and 1 error. Don't forget Family Circle Cup tennis coming up in a few minutes. And we'll be back after this message in the aftermath of the Tigers' 10th consecutive win here in Kansas City.